Well, thanks very much. You've just flown in for 1.5 months. You've been in South Africa. You've taken up the post in Johannesburg. And I just wanted to understand how you saw your role in this office in Johannesburg, particularly in promoting trade as well as investment.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. The core task that we have at our consulate in Joburg is the promotion of the India-South Africa business and investment relationship. And I think it's an exciting and rewarding opportunity because of the extent to which certainly our business is focused on the South African market and from South Africa into the southern sub-Saharan African market. I think we see South Africa as a partner of choice, as a partner with which our country's corporate sector can expand its Africa strategy into sub-Saharan Africa. So really our focus begins from that point.
Okay. And what is the nature of trade between India and South Africa? How big is it? Are we meeting targets? And what are the sort of main areas where we trade, where the two countries trade?
Trade is growing. It's been growing fairly fast until the recent global financial recession. Unfortunately, that's had an impact. The target was to try and reach $10 billion in bilateral trade turnover by the end of next year. We are a little challenged on that front right now. I think we have not crossed the 6.5 billion mark. Unless something dramatic happens, it seems a little hard to see that we'll make the 10 billion target. We should still strive to get it, and I don't say that this will not happen. But insofar as the trading relationship goes, it's based on an exchange of we buy a lot of natural resource products from South Africa. There are constraints now in being able to expand that. Similarly, in terms of the trade basket from India, engineering goods, automotive components, automobiles, again, these sectors have also taken a bit of a beating in the last 1 year. So it's difficult to see that expanding very substantially right now.
Yeah. Your passion, though, as you've moved from a multilateral environment in New York to this bilateral relationship, is to build investment relationships, both in South Africa as well as in India. Where do you see the main opportunities for, firstly, where are Indian businesses in South Africa? How many are there? And where do you see the main opportunities for Indian business in South Africa?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think investment is, in many senses, a more sustainable and more long-term engagement between countries. I think particularly when it's private sector engagement of the sort, then that's really people putting their money where their credibility is. And that is really an outstanding sign of our relationship. That relationship has grown enormously. We have an estimate of about 100 Indian companies in South Africa with a minimum of $2 billion in investment. Now, the reason why these figures are a little sort of guesstimates is because we don't have accurate statistics, because much of this is based on the fact that most Indian businesses, very sensibly, don't bring FDI. They actually leverage debt, purchase equity, and a variety of other methods of being part of the market. But if you just look at the scale of the companies that are here, we have, of course, some of India's largest corporations, the Tata Group, which is, of course, a company that's based in 63 countries. It's truly India's largest MNC. They're here in telecom, they're here in automotive, they're here in hotels, they're here in iron and steel in South Africa, not just in Africa. Beyond that, we have other iron and steel companies. We have Jindals, which I mentioned to you a little while ago. We have our telecom companies, we have our IT companies. All of them are coming into the South African market. We also have smaller companies that are bringing food processing and healthcare products. We have pharmaceutical companies. Some of our biggest pharma names are here. So for us, it's very satisfying. On the other way around, we have a growing trend of South African companies going to India in a very diverse sort of mix of companies. Everything from Sab Miller in the breweries sector to Airports Corporation of South Africa, who's present in our Bombay Airport expansion project. But I think, given the sort of opportunities in both countries, it's nowhere near enough. I think we can do a lot more.
And your key role is facilitating, getting Indian businesses to know about this environment, telling them about some of the legislative peculiarities of this market, as well as some of the social needs that come with this market. But then you stand back. That's the model of the Indian government. So you
Yes.
facilitate the handshake, but it's not as much a strategic relationship as it must be business doing business, a commercial relationship.
Yes, because in fairness also it's our business people putting their money in. So beyond the point, we try and help, including by identifying opportunities, but we also like to try and help by being able to tell our businesses what exactly is happening here, so that when they come here, they get a sense of what we think is the outline of the business environment out here. Obviously, that's for them thereafter to develop it, and we help try and find them appropriate partners, including people who will give them sound commercial advice on a commercial basis, which is for them to then decide whether it's worth their while and so on and so forth. That's where we sort of stand back a bit, because we're not promoting any one company as an advisory sort of mediator for an Indian business. But if they are happy with the assistance that's being provided, well, that's excellent, and hopefully that will then take them into a more lasting commitment into the South African economy.
And in on the outward side, you also like to promote South African businesses coming into India and doing FDI there. Where do you see the low-hanging fruits?
Of course, I mean, I'm not. My job isn't solely to promote Indian businesses in South Africa. It's as much, if not more, the other way around. I think the low-hanging fruits in India are obvious. Anybody who's been to India knows that our biggest challenge right now to sustain the economic growth that we have is to create the public infrastructure for it. That includes electricity, electric power, where we need. The estimate is something like $600 billion worth of business opportunities in the next 15 years or so. We need new ports, a new port capacity, new port handling capacities, new mining technologies, new construction in roads, new construction in urban transportation solutions. You name the public sector requirement, and India has it. Now, this is not to say that we don't have capacities indigenously to service these requirements. What I'm trying to say is the opportunities are so large, no single country, indeed no single group of countries can address them singly. So South African business must go to India, because that's where the opportunities for their core competences, engineering, road construction, power projects, these are all South African specialities, in fact. So really speaking, we really should have much more South African presence in India.
The mining environment in India is not well known to South African companies. I think we're known as a big mining capital, but yes, there are a lot of resources in India. There's also a fairly tight legislative regime around that. But the opportunity, how do you see the opportunities for mining and mining technology companies, or South African mining technology companies in India?
Well, really, you have to look at the opportunity in terms of the technological services you can provide. Your capacities are well known to be at the cutting edge of the sort of technological envelope. You're among the world's top 3 mining powers in terms of capacities, and what you have in South Africa in terms of the ability to do deep shaft mining is quite unparalleled. Now, in India, India is actually surprisingly, as you said, a mineral-rich country, but the extraction process has long been involved with at least in the public domain, with an association with polluting of groundwater, destruction of natural environment, displacement of people, and ours is not an uncrowded country. So you have it's not sustainable to have mining done in a way that is that brings social costs to it. Now, what I understand, and this is limited knowledge, that your companies have the capacity to provide mining solutions that do not have these negative side effects, or at least minimize them. If that's the case, then well, you're looking at a business opportunity right there. Legislative regimes exist because there is public demand for it. In a democracy, people fear mines because of the damage that they can and have seen mines wreak in their lives. Now, if you can show that you can bring mining solutions that do not bring such damage, I don't see why this would be a problem.
And finally, you've got a tenure here that you'll be here for some years now. What is your key aspiration and goal while you are staying in this country?
Key aspirations and goals are really defined by the people in my ministry who sent me here. But I would be very, very happy if I could try and drive the relationship forward in terms of mutual investments. I think the long-term strategy for both countries has to be a closer partnership. For India, for Indian businesses to look at, if they're looking for new growth avenues, and which they are, Africa is the logical destination. And if they have an Africa strategy, given the model that Indian business practices of efficient use of capital, of sort of private sector-led sort of investment, South Africa is a partner of not only of choice, but a logical partner. Similarly, for South African businesses in India, I think it's essential for them to recognize that growth opportunities need that diversity, and they need to be in the Indian market. There is no alternative for a sound growth strategy for South African companies.